grew up in rural Pennsylvania. So my father died. My father passed when I was just a few months old. He was killed in an act of violence, actually here in California, in LA, in the Mission District. Jeez. And I never met him. I was just a baby. And my mother and he were going through like a administrative divorce, a 1980s era administrative divorce, which basically means you file your divorce paperwork. It's posted in 3 different newspapers. If nobody responds after like 3 months or whatever, then the divorce is finalized. So it was a strange situation.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So my mom and dad were on the outs. My father was in California. My mother was in Texas, I believe, at the time, Arizona at the time, and that's when. And then he died. And then my mother ended up raising me alone, which she was already planning on doing. But now she was a widow. So she had death benefits and survivor benefits and some other things that helped with raising me. So I was raised in Arizona around my family, all Latinos, and I was raised in a predominantly maternal home. It was my mother and my grandmother, and then I had my 2 aunts who were strong women nearby. So this was kind of how life started for me. Now, my mother remarried when I was about 5, and she remarried a Vietnam vet, Caucasian guy from Indiana, and he did not like being around my mother's family all the time.
Okay.
So he took a job transfer and they went to Pennsylvania. And the truth be told, my mom didn't want to be around her family either. She was the black sheep of her family. And she married a guy who didn't want to be around her family. And, I get it. I'm a married guy myself. I totally get it. So I grew up in rural Pennsylvania because that's where the job transfer sent my dad. And my 2 half sisters, who my stepdad and my mother had after they got married, are both beautiful girls, but they lean more Caucasian and they lean less ambiguously brown.
Okay.
So I ended up having that experience where I was the brown kid in a white family in a white neighborhood, in a time when it was cool to be white and it wasn't very cool to be brown. Yeah. But I keep telling folks that the thing that really strikes me is I specifically remember looking at myself in my mind's eye, and I was always a white kid. Like, I was always surprised when I looked in the mirror and I was brown.
Okay.
And I was always surprised when I looked in the mirror and I saw a face full of hair, because all the other kids in my school were like, handsome, Caucasian, whatever. And that's what I saw. That's what I saw all around me. Yeah. It was like me and 3 token African-American kids growing up in rural Pennsylvania, all with the same goal: get the fuck out of Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Yeah.
Freedom! So fresh, so new.